Yes, you can talk to trees, and it's actually not that complicated. So, if you want to know how to easily communicate and really start building a deep relationship with trees, whichever trees may grow where you live, keep on watching because I have been a certified tree hugger for my entire life, and I definitely am deeply connected to the trees, and I want to share like how you can create that connection for yourself because they want to talk to you, but do you want to talk to them? So in this video, I'm going to share with you the step-by-step process to really jump into a relationship with the trees, to start communicating, and then some tips to really deepen that communication, to really get those juicy conversations with the trees. Yeah, so if you're interested, keep watching to the very end for my top tip. The trees are, in my opinion, probably the most powerful beings that live on Earth. And there's some magical creatures here, but like just look at them. They're literally pulling energy deep within the root, communicating with all the other living beings that are connected to the mycelial networks. And then they're pulling that energy up and they're taking our CO2, like they're taking our waste and turning it into life. They're turning it into oxygen. And then they reach up to the sky. Like they're so powerful. And I've received a lot of downloads about how the trees are quite literally pillars of light, and they are these guardians and these elders of these lands, and so it's so important for us to protect them. And you can watch my video I made many moons ago about the Fairy Creek protests here on the islands on the west coast on Vancouver Island. Go watch that if you want to learn more of like the facts and the history and everything of protests and trying to protect the trees. But this video is going to be more about energetics and how you can communicate with these really powerful beings who have a lot to share with us and who we have a lot to give to. Step number 1 in learning to talk to trees is to go and give your nearest tree a big ol' hug. And yes, like tree huggers have known all along. I am a definite tree hugger. Like I can't resist but hug trees, and it's because you can feel their energy, especially if you're able to have bare skin touching a tree. Like you could feel that light that's moving within them and that wants to connect to you. So I think just starting out, just find a tree, go hug it. Maybe go to the forest and find like an elder, like a really old tree that has a welcoming presence to hug. And yeah, just we'll slowly move into full-on conversations with them. Okay, so once you've gotten to know them a little bit, you can start to get to know their names. So find one of these books or like little pamphlets which tell you the names of all the different plants and trees and living beings in your terrain. And yeah, just get to know their names and start to identify them and be like, oh, there's a cedar. Like right now I'm sitting under this beautiful arbutus, which are one of the most magical trees that only grow in very particular places like here on Salt Spring Island. And you'll start to, as you start to identify them, you'll start to notice how different all the trees are. Like, of course, they're all trees, but maybe there's a certain tree that's really calling out to you, that really wants to talk to you. Maybe the cedars have a message for you. Maybe the firs like are just so rooted in where you're from and they feel so familiar and welcoming. So start to identify them and see which ones call out to you in particular. Okay, so step number 3, once you've found a tree that's really calling out to you, make an offering and introduce yourself to the trees. So either like I like to do a song, but you could also bring food, or sometimes I'll bring little beeswax candles, bring water. You could find things in the forest and leave them as offerings at the base of the tree, like whatever. You could bring your moon blood, which you can watch a video about that, about doing a ritual with your moon blood. There's so many different things, whatever resonates with you, what you feel like would be a good offering, something that's natural, that's not going to like destroy the environment and be bad for the tree is ideal. So don't bring something artificial to the tree, but bring something that resonates. And your offering could also be a prayer for the land. It could be a prayer, you know, for the abundance and the livelihood and the bliss of this land to continue on. And you can also give your emotions as an offering to the tree. Like, I have gone so many times to the trees, to the forest, and just cried my little eyes out, you know, crying, screaming, feeling pleasure or, you know, ecstasy with the trees. Like, there's so much that we can experience and give to the trees. So let those tears out and give them as an offering to the tree. Let it water their roots. But whatever it is, I think it's so important to when you're first stepping into this, to build a relationship with the trees, with these beings, just like you would a relationship with a human. And you don't come empty-handed. You know, when someone hosts a party, you bring them some wine, or, you know, you bring offerings with you to a potluck. And so kind of treat it like that as you're slowly starting to introduce yourself and get to know these trees and open up into conversation. And after you give your offerings, either that same day or maybe you feel like that was enough for one day and you come back later, then just lay with the tree and just observe and just be and enter into this realm of kind of like meditation, but open-eyed, right? Like, you're just connecting, receiving, being, and that's when the conversation will flow through, and allow whatever flows through to be. Maybe you receive images, maybe it's just like you talking in your head, or maybe it's a totally different voice. Maybe you feel called to sing, maybe like a song or certain words want to flow through and actually be verbalized from the trees. And you can enter into conversation, and maybe you want to go back multiple times to deepen your relationship. It's so, oh, I love when you find trees that you feel a connection to and you continue to go back and visit them. Like, that is really powerful, and that's when you can receive the really deep stuff, right? Like, when you really get to know someone and it's really intimate and you go to those deep, dark, wild places, like, that's what the trees can give you as well, if you're willing to show up for them over and over again. There's also something really powerful about sitting at the trunk of a tree, and I feel like many prophets have done so. I'm not a great historian, so you'll have to look that up on your own, but I swear there's some spiritual texts where they mention prophets sitting at the trunk of a tree. Okay, and if you're lying there and nothing's happening, ingest some of the tree. If that's accessible or interesting to you, you could take a tincture, like a cedar tincture, or you could brew some arbutus bark tea. And there are some trees that you don't want to ingest, like that it can be a little bit toxic, or to ingest too much. So definitely do your research on that. Just did a diet of cedar as part of a herbalism program that I'm in. So I was taking the cedar tincture for a whole moon cycle, and, you know, going and sitting with the cedars and connecting to them. And yeah, a plant diet can be super, super powerful, but you don't have to go that far just to start talking to them. Like, they will talk to you without having to do crazy deep work with them. And then once you've kind of initiated yourself into this relationship with the trees and connecting to them, you'll find that when you're walking in the forest, you will start to hear them and start to receive wisdom from them, in a more easeful, casual way. Like, you don't have to do a whole ceremony or an offering or sit in meditation every time you want to talk to them. It's just like, you know, an old friend that's there, and they'll just be open to communicate with you the more and more that you are in a state of receptivity. Like, I think that's the biggest key, is that sometimes when we are in the forest or we go on walks or we're with the trees in a park or something, maybe we're on our phone, or, you know, we're in our head, or we're just like not even open to communicate. And so that's the biggest tip I have for you, is to just practice being in a state of presence, of openness, of love and gratitude. And yeah, it'll be way easier to just connect with them all the time, especially though if you're barefoot. You can watch my video about all the benefits of walking barefoot in the forest. But I find when I do that, I can feel almost like the messages coming up from the mycelium that I'm touching with my bare skin, you know, like through the soil. And that's how I can really get the best messages, is if you're barefoot in the forest. Well, that is all I feel called to share with you today. How do you like this new style? I love filming in the forest, but sometimes it can be really hard to find a spot to put the camera or to put my phone. So what do you think? Is it too weird to be this up close and personal? Let me know in the comments, and let me know, like, what is a tree that's really resonating with you? I'm really feeling this arbutus right now, but yeah, cedar has been really connecting to me deeply recently. I'm not from these lands, like I'm not used to the big cedars that grow here. Like I'm from the East Coast and I'm so familiar with the birch and the pines. So yeah, I would love to hear what trees are really speaking to you recently. Yeah, I just would love to connect with you in the comments. So leave me a comment, like this video if you are a tree hugger as well, and I'll see you soon.